This is the story of a woman who didn't just walk away from a broken marriage. She turned the ending into something unforgettable. Her name was Lena Carter, a 28-year-old woman who believed in love with her whole heart. For years, she had dreamed about her wedding day, not just as an event, but as the beginning of a forever she had carefully imagined since she was a teenager. She had been with her partner, Ethan, for nearly 5 years. Through ups and downs, long talks, and shared dreams, she truly believed they were building something real. When he proposed, it felt like everything was finally falling into place. And Lena didn't hold back. She spent over a year planning not just one, but 2 weddings. The first was something deeply personal, a small ceremony in Nevada, held in the same chapel where her parents had said their vows decades earlier. It felt symbolic, almost like destiny was aligning itself with her story. The second wedding? That was the big one. A stunning celebration by the coast with over 100 guests, elegant decorations, and every detail carefully crafted. She poured her time, energy, and emotions into making it perfect. Every flower, every song, every plate on every table, it all mattered to her. She wanted it to be unforgettable, and it was, just not in the way she expected. Only days after the celebration, everything began to fall apart. At first, it was subtle, a shift in energy, a tension she couldn't quite explain. Conversations became shorter. Eye contact became rare. Something felt off, but she tried to ignore it. She told herself it was just stress, but deep down, she knew. Then came the moment she couldn't avoid anymore. A truth so heavy, it shattered everything she had built in her mind. The marriage, the one she had spent years dreaming about, wasn't going to last. Not months, not even weeks. Within days, Lena made one of the hardest decisions of her life. She walked away. She filed for an annulment almost immediately, choosing to end the marriage before it could leave deeper scars. It wasn't easy. It wasn't clean. And it definitely wasn't something she had ever imagined for herself. The courtroom day came faster than she expected. She remembers standing there, her hands slightly shaking, her heart pounding louder than anything else in the room. When the final decision was announced, it felt unreal, like waking up from a dream you never wanted to have. And when she stepped outside, she broke down. Not out of weakness, but because of everything she had been holding inside. Tears, relief, anger, confusion, all at once. But in that moment, sitting on the steps outside, something shifted. She realized something important. This wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of something new. The days that followed weren't easy. There were quiet mornings filled with overthinking. Nights where memories replayed in her mind. Questions she didn't have answers to. But she wasn't alone. Her friends, especially one named Maya, stood by her side through it all. They listened, supported, and reminded her of who she was before everything happened. One day, Maya came up with an idea. Not just any idea, something bold, something emotional, something completely unexpected. A photo shoot. But not the kind you're thinking of. This one would be different. It wouldn't be about romance. It would be about closure. At first, Lena hesitated. The idea sounded intense, almost too symbolic. But the more she thought about it, the more it made sense. She didn't want to just move on. She wanted to release everything she had been holding on to. So she said yes. They contacted a photographer named Iris, someone Maya trusted. Together, they planned something powerful, a visual journey that would represent Lena's emotions from beginning to end. They chose a quiet beach location, far from crowds. somewhere raw, somewhere real, because that's exactly what Lena was feeling. The day of the shoot arrived. The sky was slightly cloudy, the wind soft but noticeable, almost like nature itself understood the mood of the moment. Lena stepped onto the sand wearing black boots and a simple outfit. Not glamorous, not perfect, just her. The first scene began with something symbolic. In her hand, she held a copy of her wedding invitation, the same one she had once looked at with excitement. Now it felt different, heavier. She stared at it for a moment, took a deep breath, and then lit it on fire. The flames grew quickly, curling the edges of the paper, turning something once meaningful into ashes. She didn't look away. She watched it burn, every second of it, and when it fell to the ground, she stepped forward and crushed the remains beneath her boots. In that moment, something inside her shifted. She later described it as the deepest breath she had taken in months, like finally letting go of something she didn't realize she was still holding. But that was only the beginning. The shoot continued with even more powerful moments. In one scene, there was a small white cake placed on a stand. It looked like a wedding cake, simple, elegant, but on top, written in dark icing, were the words, "The End." Lena stood in front of it, staring for a few seconds. Then, without hesitation, she raised her heel and smashed it. Hard, cake scattered everywhere. And instead of sadness, she laughed. Not a quiet laugh, a real one. The kind that comes from release. Another moment captured her holding a bottle of champagne. This time, not for a celebration of marriage, but for herself. She popped it open, the sound echoing across the empty beach. Foam spilling over as she smiled, not because everything was perfect, but because she had survived. As the shoot went on, Lena changed outfits, each one representing a different part of her journey. A bold red dress, for strength. Black lace, for vulnerability. A loose white shirt, for peace. Each look told a story. Each pose carried emotion. And Iris, the photographer, encouraged her every step of the way. "Let it out," she would say. And Lena did. Toward the end of the shoot, there was one final scene. The ocean, calm, endless, powerful. Lena walked slowly toward the water. The waves touched her feet, then her legs. She didn't rush. She didn't hesitate. She just stood there, letting the water move around her. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in a long time, she felt calm. Not because everything was fixed, but because she had faced it. Later that evening, she couldn't stop thinking about the photos. She kept checking her phone, waiting to see them. When they finally arrived, she was overwhelmed, not because they were perfect, but because they were real. She saw herself in a way she hadn't before, strong, honest, alive. When she shared them with friends and family, the response was immediate. Messages poured in, support, pride, encouragement. Even people she barely knew reached out, telling her how inspiring it was. And that's when Lena realized something even bigger. Her story wasn't just hers anymore. It was something others could connect with. If you've ever gone through heartbreak, if you've ever had to rebuild yourself after everything fell apart, take a second right now. Tap like on this video and subscribe to the channel. Because stories like this remind us that endings don't have to define us. They can transform us. But Lena's journey wasn't over yet. In fact, what happened after those photos shocked even her. Because just when she thought she had finally closed that chapter, something unexpected happened. Something that made her question everything all over again. And trust me, You're going to want to hear what comes next. Just when Lena thought she had finally closed that painful chapter, life had one more surprise waiting for her. The days after the photo shoot felt lighter. Not perfect, but different. The heaviness in her chest had started to fade. She found herself waking up without that same pressure, that same tight feeling that used to sit in her chest the moment she opened her eyes. For the first time in weeks, she felt like she could breathe again. Her phone kept buzzing. Messages, comments, people reacting to the photos she had shared. At first, it was overwhelming. Friends told her how proud they were. Old classmates reached out. Even strangers sent long messages saying her story gave them courage. One message read, "I don't know you, but I needed to see this today." Another said, "You helped me feel less alone." Lena sat there, scrolling slowly, realizing something she hadn't expected. Her pain had turned into something meaningful. But not every message brought comfort. One evening, as she was sitting alone with a cup of coffee, her phone lit up again. A name she hadn't seen in weeks. Ethan. Her heart dropped. For a second, she froze. She had imagined this moment before, wondered if he would ever reach out. But now that it was actually happening, it didn't feel the way she thought it would. It felt heavy. She stared at the screen. The message was simple. "Can we talk?" 1,000 thoughts rushed through her mind. Why now? After everything? After the silence? Her fingers hovered over the screen. Part of her wanted to ignore it, to protect the peace she had just started building. But another part, the part that once loved deeply, needed closure. Real closure. So after a long pause, she replied, "Okay." They agreed to meet the next day, a quiet cafe, neutral ground, no memories attached. That night, Lena barely slept. Her mind replayed everything, the relationship, the wedding, the pain, the photo shoot, everything that had led her to this moment. But something was different this time. She wasn't the same person anymore. The next day arrived. Lena walked into the cafe slowly, scanning the room. And there he was, sitting at a corner table. For a moment, everything felt familiar. Too familiar. But she kept walking. She sat down across from him. Silence filled the space between them. Ethan looked nervous, more than she had ever seen him before. "I saw the photos," he said quietly. Lena nodded. "I figured." He took a deep breath. "I didn't expect that," he continued. "I didn't expect you to turn everything into something like that." She looked at him calmly. "It wasn't for you," she said. "It was for me." Another silence. He looked down at his hands. "I made a mistake," he said suddenly. There it was, the sentence she had once waited to hear, the sentence she thought would fix everything. But now, it landed differently. "I was overwhelmed," he continued. "Everything happened so fast. The weddings, the pressure. I didn't handle it right." Lena listened, but she didn't interrupt. "I thought leaving would make things easier," he said. "But it didn't. It just made me realize what I lost." He looked up at her. "I miss you." That sentence hung in the air. Heavy, complicated. For a moment, Lena said nothing. She just looked at him. Really looked at him. And then she smiled. Not out of happiness, but out of clarity. "I believe you," she said softly. Ethan's expression shifted, a small spark of hope appearing in his eyes. But then she continued, "And that's exactly why I can't go back." The hope faded. "What do you mean?" he asked. Lena leaned forward slightly. Because I deserved someone who didn't have to lose me to realize my value. Silence. This time, deeper than before. I gave you everything, she continued. Time, love, trust. I built a future around us. Her voice didn't shake. It was steady, strong. And when things got real, you walked away. Ethan looked down again, unable to respond. I'm not angry anymore, Lena said. And she meant it. I'm not even hurt the same way. She paused. But I'm not the same person you left. That was the truth. The photo shoot, the healing, the support. It had changed her. I needed to go through that, she added. Not just the breakup, but everything after it. Because it showed me who I am without you. Ethan nodded slowly, as if he finally understood. Or maybe, as if he had no choice but to. I just wanted a chance, he said quietly. Lena shook her head gently. You had your chance. And with that, something closed. Not dramatically, not painfully, but peacefully. They sat there for a few more minutes, exchanging a few final words. No yelling, no tears, just acceptance. When Lena stood up to leave, she felt something she hadn't felt before. Not sadness, not anger, but freedom, real freedom. As she walked out of the cafe, the sunlight hit her face, warm, bright, different. And in that moment, she realized something powerful. Closure doesn't always come from the other person. Sometimes, you create it yourself. In the weeks that followed, Lena continued to rebuild her life. She focused on herself, her passions, her happiness. She started doing things she had once put aside, traveling, creating, living. The photos from that beach day became more than just images. They became a reminder of strength, of survival, of transformation. And slowly, her story spread even further. More people reached out. More women shared their own experiences. Stories of heartbreak, of leaving, of starting over. Lena responded to as many as she could. Not as someone who had all the answers, but as someone who understood. One message stayed with her. It said, you didn't just tell your story. You gave others permission to face theirs. And that meant everything. Months later, Lena returned to the same beach. This time alone. No camera, no audience. She stood by the water, watching the waves roll in and out, just like before. But everything felt different now. Back then, she came here to let go. Now, she was here to appreciate how far she had come. She smiled to herself. Not because life was perfect, but because she was okay. And that was enough. Sometimes the most powerful endings don't look like endings at all. They look like new beginnings. And if there's one thing Lena's story teaches us, it's this. You can lose something you thought was everything, and still find yourself becoming something even stronger. Pain can break you, but it can also rebuild you, piece by piece, into someone you never imagined you could be. So if you're going through something right now, if you feel like your world has fallen apart, remember this. Your story isn't over. Not even close. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends.